Hello everyone, I'm bringing you the Mannequin of the Month for February 2025 today, and the topic we're going to talk about was of course chosen via a poll over on Patreon. The corporal tier over there get to vote each month on what's going to be covered, and the topic which topped the poll this month relates to the Falklands War, which is a topic I've not covered for a while on the channel, so it was interesting to put this together. And this is based on footage and photographs of the immediate aftermath of the air attacks at Bluff Cove, which took place on the 8th of June 1982. Quite infamous and caused a huge number of casualties, of course, and it was basically a case of all available personnel at Bluff Cove doing what they could to assist in dealing with those casualties, evacuation, carrying stretchers, providing immediate medical care, and the Regimental aid post of 2 Para formed part of that, and this is set up to represent, based on that footage and photographs, is set up to represent a member of 2 Para's RAP. And a Regimental aid post is an organic element of a battalion, provides immediate medical care on the battlefield to casualties and to the regiment generally, not only battlefield casualties, but obviously in the Falklands, there were major issues with trench foot and so forth, and this was dealt with, at least initially, by the Regimental aid post. If men required further medical treatment, they would of course be sent back through the RAMC system or the naval medical system that was available in support of the task force, but the RAP were there to provide the immediate medical support, and they provided immediate medical support to men outside the battalion, casualties of the air attack at Bluff Cove. And as I say, that's what we're looking at here, is a kit, a set of kit on the Mannequin based on that footage, dealing with that immediate aftermath. And most of the kit we see here, the web equipment and so forth, is fairly standard of the British Army at the time. A little bit of specific clothing which appeared in the Falklands, which is a little bit more specialist, and we'll talk about that as well. As we normally do, we'll start at the top here, and we of course have the airborne beret up here with a blackened parachute regiment cap badge. You can see that there. There are various layers of clothing on the Mannequin here. You can perhaps see it's quite bulky, and of course the principle behind the cold weather clothing system, or the combat clothing system of the British Army at the time, was for cold weather you would wear layers, and you can see some of those layers here. We have the standard khaki flannel shirt, or combat shirt, the nomenclature by this time. At the neck here, you can just see the collar of that poking out, and then we have the jersey heavy wool over the top of that. We then have the parachutist smock worn on top of that, and then the outer garment, which we can see most detail of here, is the windproof smock, the Arctic windproof smock. So, as I say, several layers there, and of course there were other layers which could form part of this, the quilted liners and so forth, and look at those at some point in the future. I've made videos of those, looking at those quite a while ago, and they definitely need polishing up and remaking, so that's something I'll be covering in the future, no doubt. But that's the basic set of layers we can see here at the collar, with the open collar here of the smock. The outer smock here you can see it's made of quite a thin gabardine, but this is intended to provide a windproof outer layer. It has bellows pockets, as you can see there, and the lower pockets are also bellows pockets. You can see those details there. And there is a rank tab on the front here where you could attach rank, and the same is true of the rear. Well, there should be, it's actually been removed from the rear, but there would originally have been a rank tab at the rear as well. In terms of the web equipment, you can see here, this is very standard for the British Army at the time, the 1958 pattern. There was some customization within the parachute regiment. You see quite a bit of customization of web equipment. This is quite stripped down, as we'll see as we move this round. But what you commonly see at the front are the 2 ammunition pouches, which we have here. You can just see poking out the top of this one, we have the bayonet attached to the side of this, which is the way the bayonet is to be carried on 1958 pattern, is on the side of the left-hand ammunition pouch, and you have that there. We'll see more detail of that as we move this round, of course. Standard 1958 pattern web belt there, and of course the yoke supporting the pouches at the front here, and you can see the attaches through the rings on the back of the pouches to support them directly. Across the chest here we have a strap in tan, which carries a haversack, and we'll see that. It carries a bag round to the rear, and we'll see that in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get round to there. You can see there's an adjustment buckle up here, but just to mention, that's what that's for there, is actually a carrying strap, and we'll see the bag that's supporting in just a moment. That's the front of the Mannequin. We'll start moving this round now and have a look at some of the other details. Moving this round to look at the right hand side of the Mannequin, one detail you can see is the hood of the windproof smock there, and this of course has a wire cowl that can be moulded up around the head to give wind protection if required. Just an interesting detail of the windproof smock. See the arm coming down here, some elbow reinforcement there. You can see double layer of cloth around the elbow there. The cuffs adjust in with a Velcro or touch and close fastener there, as you can see, so they adjust in. You can just see the elasticated cuff of the parachutist smock inside that as well. You see the ammunition pouch there with the quick release for the main opening. And then Around on the hip here, we have the haversack for the S6 respirator. You can see that there. Not carrying the respirator in this instance. These were used to carry all sorts of other bits and pieces by the men who kept them on their equipment. And certainly in the footage I'm basing this on, the chap had one of these on his equipment, so I've left that there. But as I say, generally speaking, in the Falklands, these weren't used to carry respirators. They were used to carry all sorts of other personal items and various other bits and pieces in there, just as one large haversack. You can see that there, round on the belt. It's carried on the belt using the belt loop on the back rather than using the independent shoulder strap. It closes at the front there with a press stud and 2 sections of touch and close or Velcro on the flap as well. Looking at the back of the Mannequin here, you can see again the hood there on the windproof smock. We have the yoke for the 1958 pattern equipment at the back here, coming down with the straps to support the back of the belt, as you can see there. This is the position where you would have had that rear rank tab, basically a loop of cloth with a button here, basically effectively in terms of design an epaulette, but on the back rather than up on the shoulder, where you could have attached a rank slide on the rear there. And then we have here what was originally a shell dressing bag, and this is a Second War era shell dressing bag, but these were commonly repurposed to carry all sorts of medical items, sundry medical items as required by RAP personnel. So you have that there, you have the Geneva Cross there. As I say, it is basically a Second War era shell dressing bag, but you can see shell dressing has been scrubbed out. We actually have general purpose stamped across the top here. So that's interesting, and as I say, a detail you do see in footage of the time is these being carried. And obviously these were used to carry various medical items as required for immediate battlefield casualty treatment. And you have that slung on its own shoulder strap here, as you can see. And as we move this round to look at the left-hand side, you can see we have an arm pocket here, which is typical of these windproof smocks. Unfortunately, this has had a piece of insignia glued to it at some point in the past, which is a real shame. I have tried to remove some of the glue with a little bit of heat, but with the density, the fine weave of the gabardine cloth, unfortunately, it's pretty much stuck in there. A little bit of damage to that, but that's the arm pocket, the single arm pocket these have on the left arm. One thing I'll note with this is obviously all the buttons are very large, and this is at least in part intended to make them easier to manipulate with gloves. Although as they are 4-hole buttons sewn on, they're still a little bit difficult to manipulate when wearing gloves. Certainly Canadian buttons are a lot better from that perspective, and that's why there was a change to those later on. Just a detail to mention about the windproof smock there. Lifting the arm out of the way, we can see here the water bottle pouch carried around on the hip, obviously a second issue 1958 pattern water bottle pouch, and you can just see the side profile of the ammunition pouch at the front there as well, with the bayonet carried in the loops on the side, and that's what we can see on the left here. So I do hope you found it interesting looking at this. It's certainly been interesting for me digging this kit out and putting this together. Quite sobering watching the footage again from the aftermath of the Bluff Cove attacks. So the BBC were there, and extensive newsreel footage available, which shows the immediate aftermath of the attacks, which is very sobering to watch. It did prompt me to pick up a little project I had going a while ago, which I've now nearly completed, and I'll put a little video out detailing that when I do, and that is going through YouTube, trying all sorts of different search terms and trying to dig up period news reports, both radio and television, and making a chronological playlist of those. Some of them obviously will be duplicates from the same day and things like that, but trying to make something of a chronological playlist right the way through from the initial invasion to the political wranglings, and then the various operations leading up to the landings on East Falkland, and obviously the surrender. So that will be public at some point, and I'll make a little video. It may be of interest to some. I'll make a little video letting you know when that's sort of done and it goes public. As I say, sort of working on this and watching that footage prompted me to pick it up again and keep searching and try and find a few more videos to add to it. So as I say, there'll be a short video at some point letting you know when that's done, and it may be of interest to some to go through that. It starts with the initial, the night of the invasion and the Falklands Island Broadcasting Service, the radio recordings of the radio broadcast that night, which are fascinating to listen to, a really interesting historical document. I do hope you found it interesting looking at this. As I say, if you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. Really appreciate it. All of those who have subscribed, of course, the little bell means you'll be notified when I upload future videos. If you really like my videos and you'd like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's very generous of you, and I thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to vote each month on what's going to be covered in Mannequin of the Month, it's the Corporal tier over on Patreon that gives you the option to do that. and obviously they're the ones who picked this topic. There are usually 3 options each month for what's going to be covered. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked in the description, and there will be photographs of this posted up over there as well, of course. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. I do apologise to those who may have emailed me and not received a response. I periodically go through the spam folder, and I found more and more things are being directed to spam because I get it, unfortunately, because the email address is out there and in the description, I get a lot of emails from random people wanting to do advertising and things like that, some of which are completely inappropriate to the channel anyway, and it's not something I intend to do. It does seem to mean that a lot of interesting emails where people wanted to tell me about the service history and talk to me and share little snippets of their experiences and so forth, or in some cases send me kit, as we saw in the recent unboxing video, they get misdirected to the spam as well. So I do go through it periodically, and I apologise if I've missed an email from you and you haven't had a response yet. I do go through that periodically, and I will endeavour to find it if it has gone astray. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.